Hey everybody, welcome to Bitcoin and Altcoin Trading Talk. This is William Kale from Coinigy.com. I'm hiding my face as usual. Got a little beard growth going on tonight. We'll see if I'm going to stick with it or not. I'm in that itchy phase.
I totally got pretty for the show tonight too. Like, oh,
yeah, I think I might need to trim this. I'm just scratching at it all day here, and yeah.
But that's what the feedback noise is.
Yeah, it's if you hear any scratchiness, it's my beard rubbing against the microphone. I
well, I
apologize.
thought it was the chicks clawing at the door to get at you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm in that phase yet.
Oh, okay.
You know, a couple months or something. This is only like, I don't know, 2 weeks or something. But welcome.
You guys are, and we were just saying before you hit the record button that you're just super hard at work in the Coinigy trenches now, aren't you?
Yeah. So this is like this is kind of like my battle. Don't have time for showers or shaving.
There you go.
Kind of get up here. But yeah, if you guys, anybody who's listening, if you guys want to check it out, take a look at the YouTube channel. We went through kind of our next year 2017 roadmap last week and did a big old video on there with a slideshow of kind of all of our development initiatives. And really kind of this week we've spent really planning out those initiatives as far as from a development standpoint. So it's heads down coding from here on out. So I don't know, these bags under my eyes are going to get a lot darker. But just bear with it. I'm not sick. I'm just suffering from lack of sleep and programming. So it's a consequence of programming. We like.
Don't say you didn't get a bug, did you? Did you get a bug?
Did we what? I missed it. That one went whoosh.
Programmers getting a virus. Whatever.
Oh, getting a bug. Right. Real funny.
And I always do this. I should shut up. You're supposed to do.
No, you're good, Brian.
And,
you don't have to be self-conscious, Brian. You're good. You're good. I was just about to get into your intro, anyways. So
there you go. Right. So I'll zip it.
So the guy with the dad jokes over there, Brian Beamish, the rational investor. How you doing tonight?
Everybody. I'm splendid. Much better after I've seen the both of you.
Hey, likewise. And Alex Sterk from Block Talk fame. How's it hanging tonight?
Oh, fantastic. Just seeing where I can maybe spend some Bitcoin on, whether it's some Black or Boxing Day deals or maybe some altcoin sales.
Right on. Cool beans. So we got a great show for everybody. We're going to go through, I assume, a little bit of Bitcoin here because, it just hit 1,000. I'm just messing with you guys. No, I just wanted to see your reaction.
Well, that's the thing is the forwards are actually above 1,000 right now.
Are they now? Yeah,
I'm already talking in $1,000 numbers.
Gotcha. Okay. But I've been just watching Spot here, going, holy crap, man! Back in the day, yesterday we were digging up kind of old conversations from like 2011 where I was talking about how he was going to sell at $80 and stuff.
Oh no!
It was pretty fun just to look back and see. Then we got into looking up old emails. I found like the Mt. Gox hack emails that were being sent out and stuff like that from 2011, 2012. So I got a little touch of nostalgia now that we're kind of on this rocket ship right now. It's cool to see how far it's gone.
And actually, that's a good question, and maybe you guys can give me the answer for that. What was the date of that Mt. Gox sort of scandal when it sort of first hit?
Yeah, I don't know the date. The big thing with Carpellis, I'm not sure. I want to say 2013.
Right. The question is, was it after Bitcoin got to $1,000 or was it before?
It was definitely after, as far as I can remember. They had halted trading and all that funny stuff afterwards, and that caused the price to kind of tank.
Well, and so, and then what we just saw with the Phoenix hack and the way the price acted after that, I think actually there's actually a little bit of a a hint, if you will, at how and why and what the top should probably look like, and we should be looking for. I don't think it's an accident that and it took a couple of years for Bitcoin to clean itself up after the Mt. Gox hack, right?
Oh yeah.
And I think, this is basically the message to my audience, that the Phoenix hack could have done exactly the same thing. But in essence, Alex's buddies over at Bank to the Future, I think, if anything, I think and what I've been sort of telling my audience is I think that it got to the point where there was so much money involved in that Phoenix peer-to-peer lending, and they were enjoying such nice returns that it almost got to the point where it was too big to fail. And they literally couldn't let Phoenix go under. And the fact that now we look back in hindsight, Phoenix was recapitalized, and it's just business as usual. Really, that's the kind of thing that we need to be looking for to sort of mark the next top, in my opinion.
It's a good thing. I mean, I really think it is. Just the fact that one of the major exchanges can get hit with something like that and bounce back, because I guess that just means things have changed a little bit. If that would have happened, even like 2 years ago or something, Phoenix would have been,
could have been
done for.
Yeah.
So good to see resiliency in it. Obviously volume is good. Having different platforms to trade on is good. So liquidity and all that stuff.
Yeah, having variety is the spice of life. And it helps to kind of work your orders on different exchange for security and also liquidity. Like BTCE, I think, was an exchange that got hacked recently. It was only like 200 grand or something that got stolen. But that was like in the past couple weeks here we heard about.
Oh wow, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah,
I haven't heard any BTCE news in
I
years.
I don't even hear people talk about BTCE anymore. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it's one of those crazy Russian exchanges, so who knows, it could have just been covering up losses of other sorts, but it was kind of like not even newsworthy with everything else that was going on.
Yeah,
what's a measly 200,000 now,
Actually, this is a good segue to that too, and it totally floored me. And if the gentleman is watching this show tonight, I would love to continue the conversation with you. I think we probably have sold him on, just at least a site membership for us. But this gentleman came on my site yesterday, and he says, Brian, I got a bit of a problem. I have a group of people that have come to me, and they would like to buy $2 million worth of Bitcoin on a daily basis for the next 6 months. What do I do? And I was like, well, if it's one thing you're going to do is you're going to get fucking rich charging fees. And the guy's like, and he didn't even realize this. And I said, 1% of $500 million, that's $5 million, so, and those are the kind of numbers that, at Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch would charge somebody to invest $500 million. So there is some serious money just being thrown at this marketplace. And what I noticed too with the tone, in 2013, when I first started with Bitcoin, I didn't really hear a lot of sort of, higher ups, actual institutional players. They never even heard of Bitcoin for that matter. But they certainly weren't talking about things like replacing their inflation proxies like gold with actually buying Bitcoins. And I am actually starting to, people are actually realistically making the case that I don't like currencies. I want to get out. Where should I go? Can't go into gold because, we all know the Indian story there with gold. Where am I going to put my money? And I'm actually hearing people actually realistically, like this guy. I mean, $500 million is sitting there waiting to buy Bitcoins.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed, I've mentioned this before too, but I've noticed that just, some of the people that are kind of reaching out to us too it's a different type of investor. It's more a little bit older, a little bit more mature. Those types of people are now kind of coming on board the platform, and it's really good to see, as opposed to, you know, we like our alt traders with their sarcasm and fun and everything, but it's also good to see, you know, some folks that are really just diversifying their current portfolio, kind of getting into things, trying to learn how it works, which it's still, I mean, that's a huge issue for people, is just you hear about Bitcoin and then there's this huge kind of onboarding period before you're able to even figure out how to invest and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
but it's really good to see kind of the different demographics coming in, and like you said, I mean,
We're
man,
still waiting for that, what do they call it? The killer app, right? That's going to let Granny be able to buy Bitcoins and use Bitcoins. We're still waiting for that. So it's out there.
Yeah, I just read a really interesting article on medium.com. I can't find it off the top of my head, but it was all about kind of the rates of adoption. I'll find it and I'll paste it in the chat once we get into some charting here. But it showed kind of, you know, the rates of adoption of the internet, of washing machines, microwaves, all this stuff, and all the different types of, you know, early majority adopters, late majority adopters, and then kind of the late adopters. And it basically pointed out that we're just touching the cusp of the early majority adopters.
Yeah, in fact, there was somebody that on the Twitter feed kind of thing had posted that image, eh?
Yeah, it was.
And I've seen that thrown around a bit lately. And actually, that's not a bad segue. Why don't we go that direction?
Sure.
You know, as a guy who's been doing this for 25 years, I mean, obviously, I've seen a few of these come and go over the years. And I find it amusing that the only time that you ever see those images, people always put us right at the end. Let's see if I can find it. It was a cute little.
I just found it. It's.
Okay, so you got it.
I just pasted it in the chat on the YouTube show.
Yeah. Is that Alex?
Sorry, you're not on the.
Oh, wait,
a separate chat.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, there's a separate chat for viewers, and then we have our internal chat, but I just pasted it in both.
Okay, well,
it's not just the image though. There's a couple images and stuff on.
Oh, okay. I see what you've done now.
Well, the core mindset could really come back to like the fax machine analogy is what I hear. It's like if you have the first fax machine, it's not very useful because you can't send faxes to anyone. But if you have the millionth fax machine,
right,
then it becomes that much more useful. So as more people get Bitcoin and use it to exchange value with one another, it becomes that much more useful, and then it stems from there. Like, if you're the one person in your group of friends who can't pay for the bar tip in Bitcoin, then yeah, it becomes really inconvenient for you to not have Bitcoin.
Right. Yeah, the whole network effect thing comes into play, definitely.
Yeah.
But
I
think, Brian, I know where you were going with it, though, where you were going to say whenever they show these charts, we're always right before the big boost.
Yeah, no, they always, every time I see this chart, they never put, oh, you are here right now, or you are here. Nobody will ever say that, right? You're always right here, right at the beginning, and ooh, look how much growth we have ahead of us, right? But actually, I did a really cool, I've been doing a lot of work with spirals lately because I really just wanted to figure them out and get them locked down. Oh, great. And my website just crashed. Wonderful. All of my pictures. Anyway, I loaded up a stamp chart here. So let's see if this thing will reload. Sometimes I tax my system just too much. Maybe I should put some of these away. We don't need that open right now. Sorry, guys. Come on, close. Oh, wow, look how slow this is.
Man,
that's the one thing I don't like.
Platform, man. I don't know. Something's up with it.
Yeah. All right. So this is the image I wanted to show you guys. And now thinking about, where the hell is it? Thinking about this. And basically there are sort of three waves up here, right? So innovators, early adopters, early majority. Once we get to this point, then that's basically everybody's using the microwaves, everybody's using the automobiles, right? Up at the top of the cycle. So if we apply some spirals, and I love these triangles because in essence this is sort of that, you know, that fractal image of the way price moves. We often see this pattern repeated, and I actually put this tweet out a while ago. I don't know where the hell it is now. And I was just telling the boys I was going to try and find it before we started. But if you go through, my Twitter handle is @CRInvestor. So if you're watching the show and you want to follow me, sounds great, wonderful. But I also put out a whole bunch of educational pieces and stuff too. And I did one on spirals here. I'll see if I can just find it here for you. I've been really working hard to try and figure out the logic behind this. And I had this image sent to me about how basically all this spiral is just all these triangles and all these geometric relationships overlapping each other repeatedly. And so out of curiosity, I started to do some work on this, and I noticed some interesting things. So if we go back to that basic premise of where are we in this growth cycle and the 3 stages, and then we go back and we look at the Bitcoin price itself. Let's see if I can find that. We have one stage here, and this was basically the first run-up. What was the name of this run-up, Alex? When it ran up to 250 bucks, was there a name to this specific rally?
Not that I recall.
I first got
the first Mt. Gox run up.
Well, no, it was, yeah, it was prior. Like I first got involved in Bitcoin right after this bar here. This was the Silk Road reversal low. Do you remember, guys? Remember that was the court case?
Yep.
And that and this, I think, this price action is really important. The way that this turned into a hammer and then just launched itself higher at the end of this spiral event. So if someone came to me and said, "But Brian, where do you think we are on this curve?" I would definitely say that first spiral was your early, what do we call them? Early innovators?
Innovators was the first.
Right. And I'm not quite sure why I didn't put that address on the Google tab. But anyway, no big deal. And then the release. And now this is cool. Watch how geometrically we progressed and literally did the same thing here through this cycle. Same triangles. You see the repeated pattern? Same spiral, and the end of the move, a big honking release higher.
Wow, I like the upside potential on that second triangle.
Okay, so I would say, and this kind of makes sense, right? If we think about this, early adopters. Now, if you think about what happened with Bitcoin, this was the early adopters. Microsoft started accepting Bitcoins in here. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? This was the first sort of horrific scandal in Bitcoins, Mt. Gox. And actually, we were talking just a minute ago about that, how it took almost 2 full years, basically, for Bitcoin to recover from that scandal. It was a pretty nasty scandal. But the point here is that when I look at these triangles and I look at this spiral, this to me says it's played itself out. So if we are thinking about the stage, and like we had sort of mentioned a few minutes ago, I still firmly believe that the only way this bull's going to stop is with some horrific scandal. Then maybe what this is saying, especially off of these violent reversals and breaks to new highs, is maybe we're setting up for that third wave, right? Where all the public comes in.
Yeah, if you scroll down there too, it gives you kind of a cool, it takes the derivative of that basically, and it plots it on that S curve. So that's like that yellow line is the number of people that are actually involved at a certain point. Just kind of interesting because Alex, mentioned the network effect, and when there's more users, it's actually more useful.
And what we might find is by the time we get here, the asset's fully priced, all of these, the altcoin market's fully robust. We have a huge universe of various choices for people to use. The killer apps are in the public. And then Granny can just pick up her cell phone and she can start using Bitcoin, and she's going to be these people up here, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. So, obviously, we're traders, right? We want to make money, capital gains from trading. So what this sort of suggests to me, and this is the fun thing, everybody who's a Bitcoin bull loves this image, is, if we're going to go through these three waves, and if this is a reversal, and it sure as hell looks like to me that's one hell of a reversal, where's our next geometric progression going to take us? And all I did was I just simply took the triangle and the spiral concept, and I just played connect the dots off of the previous highs, and it actually projects our next spiral should look something along these lines.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like early retirement to me.
Now, I mean, obviously this isn't exact, and only time will tell. But if we're going to follow this same sort of geometric growth pattern, the irony of it all is that on a percentage basis, this was a 1,300% increase. This is a 1,300% increase. It's not like this actually is any different of a move. It's actually the same thing. It's just that the numbers are getting so big. And what's really cool is if you put a Bitcoin chart on a logarithmic scale, it actually makes a very smooth, pretty chart. I don't know whether you guys have done that recently. So I thought this was a nice treat. All the audience, you want to sort of have a pie in the sky, sort of ultimate upside objective. And how do we get up to $5,000 of Bitcoin? I think this is a very realistic way for us to do that.
Look out for that big green arrow, baby.
Yeah, that will clear some order books.
Right. Short term technically, I think it's very dangerous to call tops in here. And of course, we've been trading enough of these altcoins. I know the Bitcoin community wants to believe that altcoins and Bitcoin are not the same. To me personally, I think there's a hell of a lot of similarities between one crypto and another. Obviously POS, BOW, all those fine issues. But, Bitcoin is subject to the same civil wars as all these other cryptos, and forks issues and hack issues and all that kind of fun stuff. And I just don't think it's in your best interest to, basically plunk all your money on the table. This is the top. You're just asking for trouble. And in these kind of geometric progression kind of markets, and like I said, we've seen this on altcoins. We laugh about altcoins going 10x. Well, Bitcoin basically, what's this level here? That's $130. That's 1,100. That sounds like 10x to me, or thereabouts. So, we based here at $500-600. Could we go 10x from this? It's not totally out of the question. And considering the anecdotal evidence that we just sort of laid about this, I don't think we are here. I don't think that's fair for the community.
You think we're past that?
I think we're actually in here now.
Okay.
This story is getting a little bit old, right? And we also are getting fairly old in this economic cycle. We're heading into 2017, right? This story really got going sort of after the financial crisis, right? So, if anything, you could argue that Bitcoin really got its oomph because of the way the higher ups responded to the financial crisis just by printing the shit out of their currency and diluting it, right? So I think we are a little bit later, but that doesn't mean there isn't a shitload of money to be made here. And if anything, what I'm saying here to the audience is, trade setups. Bulls make money, bears make money. You know what happens to those pigs. Come up with your plan. If you're gonna little old lady this, holy shit, talk about little old lady strategy. Excuse my French. $300, boom, out goes half at $500-600. You're sitting on free coins the rest of the way. And oh, look, we're coming up on another double level. So there's no reason why you can't little old lady Bitcoin as well. Same principle. If you are margin, if you are leverage trading, well, you can't take that kind of casual attitude. I think if we drill down to that perspective, that's more looking at, the kind of conversations that, oh, and is this going to lose this chart? Oh, no, don't lose it. Oh, you jerks.
Click the restore from last autosave quick in the lower left and it'll pop up.
Lower left down here?
of the chart right there. It's probably going to disappear now.
The store.
Oh, you just missed it.
Oh, fudge.
We got to add, we got to extend that a little bit longer, I think.
All right. Yeah, that would have been a good idea. I didn't even know that was there. So that's one of the reasons why I do these shows, is just so I can know what the hell's going on here on the site.
Yep, yeah, that pops up pretty much whenever you load the site fresh.
Okay, that's good. Thank you,
Autosave.
All right, so short-term basis, this is what I've been sort of telling my community is, and you know, the interesting thing is we went through about 2 or 3 months there where, holy crap, well, this was boring. Remember, I'd say, you know, look at just pulling this chart up is almost putting Alex to sleep.
Oh yeah, this is.
Yeah, we were just sideways forever.
We did nothing forever, and I kept reporting the bots long from 644. We stop at break even, and yeah, okay, Brian, whatever, boring, right? Well, here's a fantastic example. Well, sometimes when you're a trader and you're working setups, the best thing for you to do is just leave the damn thing alone and just let it work. And I think that's exactly what happened here. You know, I've also pointed out to the community that in my feeling, my impression is I've never seen Bitcoin end a move without some horrific orgy of buying. So in essence, this move here couldn't end without this. This had to happen. And we are getting the orgy of buying coming in here now. I don't mind people taking short setups if that's your trading plan and you trade, like, say, an hourly or 4-hour chart, and you're just going to hunt 2-to-1, 3-to-1 setups, and if you get stopped out, shit happens. And I even took a short shot against this high just the other day on OKCoin forwards, just because we were running into just a ton of upside resistance. The bot target, that higher time frame, was hit. We had previous close levels, previous highs all in here. So I was willing to take a short shot off of here. As you can clearly see, they busted through the highs, and we were bantering about on Twitter. There's a couple of really interesting guys. One guy has the name, have you seen him, Alex? I think he goes by the name Satoshi Nakamoto. I think that's his Twitter handle.
That doesn't really narrow it down, probably.
I know. And that DJ Thistle, man, that guy's a good trader.
Oh yeah.
Gambla, he's been we've been pretty actively bantering about with him. But we were sort of musing about the fact that the market needed to get through this 920 level on Phoenix to really validate that we were still a bull. And we did that. And literally the moment that we did do that, it was just like higher highs and higher lows. We're in a bull, guys. So fantastic to see, extremely violent. And I had on an hourly chart. We actually had, if we drill down to the hourlies, and you know, for any site members that are watching this video, I did a full hour with a group of people in a group hangout today, explaining the mountain man versus the bot setups here and how the two of them played each other out and how the bot won. So there was a cute little bot setup for hourly charts. People traded this on the way up top here. So, you know, it really is a function of what kind of trading plan you're running here. For those higher time frame players playing things like bots, position trading, little old lady trading, and even, you know, trading, you know, these beautiful cup and handles, I don't think it's a good idea to chase the market up here. I think it's getting kind of risky. And I had even suggested to audiences that when we were coming up against these Phoenix highs here, just to let this resolve, and then if you wanted to go and pick up some on a breakout to the new highs, and I remember we were squawking quite a bit about that. Stamp was the first one to break out, and there was a cute little diamond pattern that developed right across the entire crypto space. And Stamp was the first one to break out, and it was just sort of like, all right, boys, the bulls won the battle, and this is the end result of that battle. Is it a good idea to go in hunting longs up here? This is getting a bit nosebleedy. In fact, if you'll indulge me with.
What are your thoughts on 1,000 as like a psychological level, though?
Well,
I mean, people are going to get in right now because they know for sure it's going to hit 1,000 and they're going to lock it.
Right, and that's an excellent point, Will. So, you know, if you had your account on Phoenix, you're talking about what, 11? Well, no, I guess about $21.
Yeah, not a lot, but
Okay, if you wanted to try and grab those 21 bucks, all right, but keep in mind they might play around with this quite a bit here. You guys did, and I don't know whether we've been on hiatus for a while. Do you guys remember seeing these charts? I did a whole bunch of them where I had, if we break out to new highs, I'm a bull. If we stay under these highs, I'm a bear. Do you guys remember that?
I'm not sure.
Anyway,
Doesn't ring a
on
bell.
the breakout, I'm a bull. We ran up, and all I did was just some extension levels off of this range here. And I think we have a tutorial on your site for extensions, don't we? So if anybody wants to learn what my extension levels that I follow on range breakouts are, they're basically 113, 127.2, which is a pretty important fib level, 144.5, which is kind of a midpoint between these important fib levels. But really the levels that I like to follow, 1618, it's called the golden ratio, really important extension level to know. And then finally, 200% is not a fib level, but it is sort of, if we think about like inverted or like a head and shoulders pattern. If you find a head and shoulders pattern and it breaks down, what this really is implying is a range trade, where there is the top of the range, and what should happen is we should get a duplication of this trading range below what they call the neckline, or the middle part of the head and shoulders. So your target on a head and shoulders is nothing more than this level here. And if we take our little fib tool and we draw the top of the head and shoulders down to the neckline, that's going to be 0 to 100%, then 200% should be nothing more than basically that head and shoulders target and an extension of that range. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
So in essence, that's why I like to use 200%. And I find a lot of times 200% works really well for harmonic levels. And so people have been asking me, Brian, where the hell are we going from here? We had this bull ABC target tag. And, on the initial tag, the market just cranked down. And people are like, holy shit, Brian, that was a hell of a target. And I was like, yeah, but... it's great if you took profits. It's awesome if you followed your trading plan and you rewarded yourself for taking the risk out of buying down here. Way to go. But this isn't necessarily the end of the move here, and we don't have enough justification to short. And so when we drew these extension targets, we created this window up here. So we've got the top of the parking garage at 1,024. We've got a previous peak in price, right? If we go back on Phoenix, back to this high here. And we also have a bigger harmonic objective from this low, boom, 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 boom. What it's done is it's painted a target window up in here. So really, it doesn't surprise me one bit that we are up in this neighborhood too. So do I have enough of a case to actually aggressively short Bitcoin right now? No way. And if anything, I would just leave this thing alone. If you are an aggressive shorter, you're trying to build a short hedge, whatever, just leave this alone and give it some time. Even before the news of the Phoenix hack, we started to get anecdotal evidence of breakdowns. There was evidence that the market was getting tired. The fact that we made a new high today says cool your jets. There's no hurry to short Bitcoin right now. As Will had pointed out a moment ago, multiple harmonic and extension targets. And then, of course, we've got the biggest, the fattest, the roundest number in the universe, 1,000 bananas just floating out there. The only other thing that I would point out to this, and I apologize, I know I'm talking way too much. The only other thing that I would point out to this is that Stamp has a gap on its chart from the 5th of December 2013, right there at 1,035.67. So, this is a close. Actually, no, this is a clothesline Gann angle study. I find it fascinating how the market has obeyed this arc so nicely. We just came up into some celestial events that seem, in my impression, to have stopped the stock market rally in its tracks. We're coming up to some interesting levels here, but I don't think Stamp, you know, I think our ultimate objective is that, where the hell's that gap? Yeah, there it is right there, up at 1,038 bucks. And that's not really that far away now, eh? You know, if we look at it on a candle chart, that could easily be filled in. That's not very far away at all now. So just, you know, don't be in a hurry to call the end of the bull, but at the same time, recognize that we are way, way, way too late to consider new purchases. That's sort of the way I would look at it. I mean, in essence, you know, last thing I'll say, Bitcoin loves 61.8s. Bitcoin loves Mountain Man. It's ridiculous how much Bitcoin loves Mountain Man. So when we had the Phoenix hack, if you had just simply taken the bottom end of the previous range where this double bottom came in and done a 61.8 and worked your order at that level, great fill. If we just have a 61.8 off of this range sitting at about 600 bucks, I think that's a perfectly fine place to be thinking about buying your Bitcoins. So that's sort of the area that I would be targeting. And this might take months. This might take 6 months to develop. It's not going to happen tomorrow. But it might. That's the way Bitcoin is. It might.
Yep.
But anyway, okay. So I said my spiel about Bitcoin. What do you think? Was that helpful?
I think it sounds good, and I'm getting my orders in at 675 as we speak.
I like that. You know, for people that did take profits, hint, hint, hint. I know there's one person out there that did take profits.
Yeah, Rob took some profits. I know on your basic.
I don't have a problem. Yeah, I don't have a problem whatsoever.
He was happy about it, though. He got some extra Christmas money. So. Well,
and that's good. Really, all I care is that he follows his plan and he did what he said he was going to do. You know, when we were sitting down here at $600-700, if he said, well, my plan is I'm going to sell at 900 and change, and he stuck to his plan and he did what he said he was going to do, that's what makes me happy. So, but yeah, stink bids down in this area, I think, you know, and wicks and tails like to be eaten when we do panic dump, and unfortunately Bitcoin has a bad habit. I don't know what the scandal's going to be. It's not here today, thank heavens, knock on wood. But if and when it does come, wicks and tails love to be eaten. There's some juicy areas down in this area that I would really consider buying windows down in here.
Yeah, I can't even fathom what the next scandal is going to be. It's always something out of left field.
That's right. You know, we say
it'll be interesting.
You cannot write better fiction than reality. It's impossible. So whatever the actual reason is going to be, it's going to be better than anything you and I could ever think of.
Right on. Well, thank you very much for that, Brian. Should we get on some wheel action? Some altcoin
action? Did we do
action?
A wheel?
Yeah, I think I got a wheel going here.
Go. Actually, let me just fill up my beverage. So, yeah, if anything you want to put on Alex's screen, and actually, maybe before we do that, Alex, can you give me an update on how this SegWit's going?
I believe it topped out at like 25%, and then it kind of cooled down a little bit. So it's looking like it's having a hard time getting activated, which is kind of interesting stuff. We thought it was kind of unanimous that people wanted to have that feature kind of added on.
So kind of voting is basically going on right now, right? As far as signing signing transactions.
Yeah, they'll be signaling blocks. So like blocks coming from miners and nodes that are running SegWit. They kind of peaked around 25, a little more %, and they haven't really gone any higher than that. But it has about a year.
Yeah, I was going to say the deadline's like next year or something.
Well, but 95 is a big number.
Right. So we talked about a catalyst to maybe generate the pullback. Maybe it's going to be something around that. And it was a year back in like September, October. So now it's got to be down to like 9 months or so, eh?
Yeah, I think we're at like 10 months right now. I'll have to check the stats page to know for sure.
Yeah, well, that'd be cool if you happen to have a page that sort of tracks how that's going. I think that would be cool information to keep an eye on.
Here, let me spin the wheel and then I'll try and find her.
Okay.
Did you get your whiskey refill, Brian?
Just Coca-Cola.
Ruby. RBY.
Ruby. You know what's interesting about Ruby? Everybody has their own story about their Bitcoin successes. And somebody there's an old technician, and actually he was in the Market Wizards book, so I highly recommend anybody watching this show, if they want a nice simple impartial opinion about what it takes to actually prosper as a trader. I highly recommend you read the books Market Wizards by Jack Schweiger. And he's had on a number of Market Wizards that we've been talking with, and I know personally I've chatted with over the years. Linda Bradford Radke. I think Bollinger was eventually interviewed by Schwager. But one gentleman that we've been bantering about on the internet, and actually I watched a really good interview with him recently, was Peter Brandt. I don't know whether you've seen his stuff on the net, but I always try to retweet out his stuff because he's got really beautiful, simple analysis. But anyway, where am I going with all this? He did an interview that I was listening to recently on one of these trader forums things, and go through the Twitter feed and find Peter Brandt if you want to learn more about him. But he said that I could actually, in my entire history of trading, if I broke down every single trade I did and all of the sort of profitable ones and added up all the profitable versus losing trades, if I did like a whole list of all my profitable trades, probably only like the top maybe 10 or 15 trades actually make up the bulk of all the fortune that I made in the stock market.
It's like the 80-20 principle with retail and stuff.
Yeah, very much, right? Where 20% of those that you put your effort in are going to generate 80% of your gains. Yeah. And Ruby, the reason why I mention this is Ruby is actually, for me, Ruby is actually the equivalent of buying Bitcoins at $4 a coin. It's the same
That's a
story.
pretty hefty endorsement.
Well, I'm not endorsing these guys. All that is a trade.
Oh yeah, as you zoom out, I understand why.
So I was very fortunate that I loaded up down here. And then I actually had somebody also actually gift me just a few of these coins down here. And I don't know where that guy is. That guy's watching the show and he goes, I was the one who gave you those coins. I wouldn't mind touching base with you again. But anyway, long and short of it here is basically I bought here, and now hopefully can you see the similarities between this and like Bitcoin, right? Where basically this is the same thing as if I bought Bitcoin at $4. So would I go and buy a Ruby in here looking at this chart? Unfortunately, there's nothing for me to get excited about. It appears, and keep in mind, guys, right? Of course, you know my strategy: sell half on a double. I got off about 6 or 7 doubles on the way up here. It was quite remarkable. What I see, are just looking at first blushes, it sure looks like there's some sort of bottom of a range down in here. And it looks like that's at a relatively round number, 0.0001. So, this is probably where your fundamentalists need to come in and say, well, what does this number represent in sort of Ruby language? Alex was telling me earlier before we started recording that Factum theoretically should move in an inverse relationship to Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin price going up recently, it didn't surprise Alex that Factum's price was going down. Is that correct, Alex?
Yeah, no, it's a really good signal for Bitcoin moves, and kind of if you see Bitcoin move without Factum, you can usually take the trade and then it will end up following it. All
right. So
you can set a clock to it, yeah.
Technically speaking, I think at best, maybe we've got like a big triangle trying to form here. And I mean, frankly, I don't even really understand the fundamental story behind Ruby. Alex, have you ever actually, like, these guys created some sort of algorithm that trades?
Yeah, I never really looked too much into it. After it kind of went up, I'm like, well, sucks to miss that one.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it other than what we've mentioned on the show, and
yeah, and if
it's getting clouded with all the other coins we've mentioned, so I don't know.
Yeah, if anybody's watching the show, and are you monitoring the YouTube chat interface?
Yep.
Well, so if you happen to have on the link, the story, the fundamental story behind Ruby and what they were doing, I don't really hear anybody talk too much about this coin. You know, I've already made my money, and I'm not even really thinking about going and buying back. You know, sadly, and this is kind of like Ethereum right now, right? If we look at an Ethereum chart, same thing. You'll see where I bought it down off the bottom, went zooming up, and it's just slowly grinding its way back down to the bottom here. I suppose for the Ruby bulls, it's encouraging to see that somebody doesn't really want this to go below this 0.001, but there's no guarantees for management. Maybe they're setting up for a big flush here. I suppose on a short-term basis, and this is totally, you know, maybe toss of the coin kind of thing. Maybe we have a nice head and shoulders trying to develop here. So one might argue that a resolution and acceptance above this level, and it sure looks to me like this level really is in play here. If we can turn and accept above here, which it sure looked like the market sure tried to, then, you know, maybe we can do some serious technical shots up top, but nothing really to write home about here. What do we got here? So the head and shoulders breakout would be at 0.0023. You got a risk down to 0.001, so fair amount of risk on this head and shoulders. I suppose you could play this little double bottom in here. Looking for a stab back up against all these old highs. I don't think that's unrealistic. Looks like you might be able to get off a nice double on the trade, but I would say odds are maybe toss of a coin, 50%. If we look at the internals, momentum doesn't look good here. You know, it did put in a very cute little double bottom in our little Willy indicator coming out of this floor. And I can understand traders got to trade, right? Cute little double bottom you could have traded here. Nice breakout there on momentum. Nice volume push. It's good to see that the buyers have come back. I'm a little concerned, though, that here you can actually see that we have a divergence. As price is moving higher, the green volume bars are not. We call this a volume impetus. And it kind of suggests that the bulls are kind of falling asleep here. They're getting a bit complacent. So be careful here, guys. This isn't a pound the table. You got to buy this thing today. It's, right. In my opinion, it's total toss of the coin here.
Yeah, just looking at information, refreshing my memory a bit. They have some partnership with, or I don't know, maybe it's not even partnership. It's this thing called Trader Daddy, and I think it's similar to Coinigy in nature, but it's got more tools to manage like market making and probably like massive order books. But it's not even, it's vaporware at this point. Like it's not even out. It's been coming soon, I think, since we originally talked about it. This probably came out during the spike, the news of this, and then they've yet to release anything yet.
All right.
Yeah, we've had some people reach out. It might have been the Ruby people. We've had people reach out to us that are coin devs, even just looking for a way to like integrate Coinigy into the coin. I don't know if this was these guys or not, but it kind of rings a bell.
All right, so there's your fundamental driver. So maybe what we're hearing is a lot of hype about the deal. Maybe they got some big financing arm to come on. And then, in essence, they got the financing, they put the plan in place, and now are they going to execute on the plan? And so quite literally, you can see that this is coming to a head here. So if you wanted to, you know, take a shot on them executing on their plan, I think your risk window is basically through here. And if you see the market lose these levels, then it means whatever the plan was, whatever sort of put the bottom in this thing and halted the sell-off, that's failed. So actually good sort of where fundamental analysis meets technical analysis. Is this cheap? Is it a bargain? Is it a steal? No. All right. If anything, I would say this is a coin that's in play. Make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right. Let's go back to the wheel.
Hey,
Wheel it up.
DJ, spin that wheel.
Oh yeah, I pulled up the SegWit chart, and it's just kind of bouncing around
Yeah, I'd
20
like
to
to
30.
see this. What's going on here? So, and does it show the deadline when this thing has to pass?
No, this chart's fairly small. You can make it bigger with their API, but I don't have the time to pull that up. Yeah, no, it's been kind of bouncing around highs of 30%, lows of 20%, so average around
So,
25.
what does that mean? Does that mean some people who voted yes are changing their minds?
Yeah, like well, it could be services that are coming off online and offline. Like it's all based on
Oh, right.
who's producing the blocks and signaling. Like you could get a string of blocks coming from people who don't support it, and then all of a sudden a string of blocks from people who do. That's why they kind of put the average line on it.
Okay. And this thing has to get up to like 90%. So I could very easily see at some point down the road this is going to become very, important to us.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's kind of important for us to grow more, but for some reason, yeah, it doesn't seem to have as much of a super majority as everyone thought. The joke was SegWit is the Hillary Clinton of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I finally got to do some reading on it like the other day, and it seems like a really darn good solution. I mean, at least for the interim, it's not going to solve all problems, but it's going to free up a ton of space in every block. So
somebody must lose in this transaction, though.
I think
don't
the
know.
worry is control. Like if it gets confirmed, then I guess you kind of have Blockstream is the company that's kind of working on a lot of it. They kind of have like pseudo control over future developments. Like, oh, okay, they released the last version
Right.
of the Bitcoin update. Now that everyone's going to go to them for the new version. So like it's this whole decentralized democracy that is really, I guess, pushing back at it. Like some people are worried about the control of it, and then it's just people are lazy. Like
Yep, that's
the
another big part.
the auto plant down the road from me was using Windows XP until like 2 years ago. So it's amazing. Like they won't change unless they have to. So that's where maybe like sometimes a hard fork is the way.
Ooh, that sounds dangerous.
Scary.
Okay, so sorry to derail you there, but that does definitely have my interest. And if anything, we almost should have like that as like a target window to keep an eye on down the road.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Sorry, I spun the wheel here and we landed on NLG.
New Gildan?
The Guilders.
Yeah, these guys, the Dutch coins.
Yeah, no, I gotta link up with my homies back in the Netherlands and get these guys on. I'm gonna need a translator though.
Yeah, you were just over there, weren't you?
Yeah, and like I had a guy telling me about it when it did its first little step up, so you can see like
he wanted you to buy up here, right?
No. He wanted me to buy when it just did like 3x. So we're like that first little run. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
He was telling. I pulled up the chart. I'm like, this is kind of like, I don't know if I really want to buy this now, man. Like it seems like a good enough idea, but it's a country coin too. There's so many country coins out there, or like, I don't know.
Well, it's
Unofficial country coins, you mean?
Yeah, well, like there was Scots coin for the separation of Scotland, Quebec coin for separation of Quebec. Like there's
I
a bunch
gotta
of
buy
these.
some of that. Holy shit.
Well, it's just like they're not even like tied to the actual real world thing. Like Trump coin has nothing to do with Trump.
Right.
No, isn't that funny? I found that hilarious.
Right. So it just
right on the page it says, "This is not endorsed by the Trump organization or anything to do with Donald Trump," which I found hilarious.
probably as an indicator why it's doing so well.
Is it up or down? I haven't looked at that coin in a while. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it did all right during the election and the hype because I think people spread that it was the official thing.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. I got to take a look at this Trump, and it only trades on the Russian exchange, right? How conveniently suspicious.
Let's see. That last spike was at November 8th.
Yeah, actually, I seem to remember that we were watching this down in here.
Yeah.
The election was right in here, eh? Yeah, right there. And so boom is when they jumped up to there. So I'm actually surprised that it couldn't even take it to new highs.
As a side note, I did see that, allegedly consumer confidence is at an all-time high or something on
In the
stuff that just
States?
got released. Yeah.
Is that a University of Michigan?
I couldn't tell you. I kind of just skimmed the headline, but
Yeah.
it was one of those things where Trump was trying to take credit for it, but it's real questionable if it is Trump related or not. But
Yeah, well,
it was interesting.
politics aside, I teach in my educational programs these demographic cycles that are 17 and a half years long. And we went through a greed cycle in the year 2000. And it's weird because a lot of young people, they don't realize what the environment was like. Like, it was a pretty happy-go-lucky world around the year 2000. People were feeling really positive and optimistic. And it's absolutely remarkable to watch over the past 15, 16 years how we have completely transformed into actually a very negative, very fearful society. And this cycle is actually supposed to come to an apex here, Q3 2017.
All right.
I find
All
it,
time.
yeah, well, I find it fascinating how, as technicians, we have these charts that suggest levels, that crazy stamp spiral chart, right? We kind of have an idea of what's going to happen, but we don't know how it's going to happen. We don't know why it's going to happen. And I find it absolutely hilarious and just stunning that if somebody was going to ask me, Brian, how would you create a scenario of absolute fear and panic in the confidence of the United States of America? Well, I couldn't write a better story than putting Mr. Donald Trump at the wheel. I couldn't write a better scenario for Canada. This Trudeau guy, he doesn't have any fucking political history. It's incredible. You cannot write better fiction than reality. And also too, on sort of a sad note, if you look back over history, the people that usually start wars are the people that have never fought in wars and that have never had family members die in wars. And it scares the hell out of me that this guy has basically lived his entire life with a silver spoon in his mouth. And he's just casually talking about a new nuclear arms race.
Right.
And that really saddens me, right? Regardless of politics and all that, it's
I'm just really banking on. I hope it's that exaggerated hyperbole that he talks about so much.
Well, but the problem is that at some point, and
we're playing at a different level now, though.
Well, what really worries me is that the Russians historically are masters of the game of politics, and dirty politics too. And I have a really bad feeling that Mr. Trump's getting played here. But we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. Anyway, let's get back to fun topics.
Yeah, the NLG. He didn't give me any coins, but he gave me these stickers. He gave me these stickers.
Any fucking coins?
Oh wait, wait, hold it up again. You weren't on camera.
Yeah, he gave me these stickers, a whole block of them, while I was in Amsterdam.
All right.
So he was very generous in having me remember the time that I missed out on buying an LG.
You probably get emails on a daily basis.
That QR code isn't your private key, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
If it is, maybe he did give me coins. I don't know.
That would be funny if it was and you turned out, hey, he actually did give me some coins.
Yeah, that happened live on the news way back in the day. Wow.
Well, that was back 2013. I remember there was it was like a Good Morning America show or whatever. And the guy held up his Bitcoin. You look what I just bought, right? And the big old QR code sitting there.
Yeah, they were giving it to somebody, and then by the time they handed it over, it had already been.
It was already gone. Isn't that awful? So, and if anything, that's a great analogy of how the world just wasn't ready in 2013 for Bitcoin. I don't know whether we're ready yet, They might make the same mistakes, but I don't know.
Mhm.
We'll see what's only time will tell. All right, NLG. You know, clearly example of blow off top. And, you know, a real reason why we love getting involved in venture capital. Also, too, I think you can make a serious argument that, you know, you guys have heard me say the longer the channel, the bigger the run. And these Dutch coins kind of sat in a price channel for quite some time. Now, I think Alex makes a perfectly valid point that when you get up to here on a story, you know, how many times, if you did buy an asset here, how many times, if you rolled the dice 10 times, how many times would you find that the asset just doesn't look back and just keeps going higher and higher and higher and higher, versus it tags this high and then rolls over and then you're quote unquote bag holding forever, right? I don't know whether you can build a business model that's sustainable over the long term. I think this happens like maybe 1 in 10, maybe 2 in 10. But in this case, she broke out and she didn't look back. Now, what can we take away from this? You know, higher highs and higher lows defines a bull market. So no doubt about it, this is a bull. That's nice to know. We can see that internally, volume's kind of trickling out here now. So this was the big event. And you can see a nice little top in the OBV. And you can see the buyers really haven't come back here yet. We got ridiculously overbought, as often happens. Bitcoin is doing this exact same thing right now. And I built this Willy indicator just to simply say, Brian, if you're thinking about buying this asset here, you're too fucking late.
Mm-hmm.
Get to your books, study your charts, and find this story down here. Don't chase up here. Because quite often what ends up happening is exactly this. You know, maybe you didn't buy right here. Maybe you bought here. Maybe you bought here, right? Who's to say exactly where you bought? What ends up, and you know, Ethereum's the same sort of thing. Do you remember back last spring? We were sort of going through the humming and haw. Do we chase Ethereum? Oh, look, it just made a new high. Do we buy it here? Do we buy it here? And boring O'Brien's like, I can't buy it. I can't buy it. I'm sorry, guys, I can't buy it. Well, it's same sort of thing, because on the other side, once this sort of euphoria plays itself out, prices often come back down. Willy no longer is stupid, and the market goes through the cleanup process. So actually, on balance, this thing is actually acting perfectly normal. Now, if you're thinking about buying it now, where's some levels to start hunting? I know a lot of people that don't really like to use the wicks, and if you want to go off of the candle bodies, that's fine by me. I like to look at all price action. Anyway, you slice it, at least now, with price where it is now, you have some confidence that you're not buying into a blow off top, because that's the easiest way to destroy your account. So at least if you come to the story now, you're not worried about this fluff. Now, is there still downside risk? Sure. I mean, all the way right back down to the bottom end of the range here. Kind of like that Ruby, kind of like Ethereum. We haven't looked at that chart, but basically it's done the same thing. It went screaming up, and it's just working its way right back down to the original bottom. You know, ironically enough, a lot of people, and you've sort of heard me talk about this before, they probably saw these original bottoms. They weren't allowed to chase them because they have Brians in their lives. And they said, all right, Brian, you son of a bitch, I'll work my buy order at the old breakout level. And if it does come down here, because you said I'm not allowed to buy when it's overbought, then I'll buy it. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bunch of buy orders sitting down in here. There's a coin. Which coin was it? There's one that's actually doing this right as we speak. I think it was a couple of the bigger ones like Dash. I don't mean to get off topic here. But if we look at Dash, see how it's coming right back down into these old lows, right? So very typical. And then also we were talking earlier about Factum, right? Yeah, coming back down into lows. And actually, this could even come back down a little further here, right? There was one that was right against, actually, you know, Candy. Candy's a good example. There, this guy, you got to go all the way back down. You see how everybody watching, see how it had to come right back down to these original lows. So, you know, I guess with regard to New Gildan, you know, it was a hell of a trade. Don't get me wrong. We made lots of money. We were banging off double after double after double in my community.
Oh, did you get in on this one?
Oh, fuck yeah. I got tons of this thing.
All right.
And I also actually went in and bought another one.
Well, you could send those to Alex now.
Yeah.
Make up for it.
Anyway, I went and bought another one of the Dutch coins back, but Rob tells me that this coin's dead. So I don't know. This is another one of the Dutch coins. I got a whole fleet of these Dutch coins. But this is one that I actually, just you can see, market came right back down into these lows, and I have stink bids working against these lows, and so I got filled on this one recently. So, you know, the fact that I'm buying this one back, I think on balance, it sort of validates the same sort of thing that we're seeing here. Those people that did make a shitload of money up top, excuse my French, if you wanted to, you know, here's the 200 period moving average. If you want to start, you know, we're below the line in the sand. If you want to start working nibbles down in here, perfectly fine by me. Do we have margin, pound the table, leverage, got to get in now, buy? No, nothing like that. If anything, you know, we should probably think like saucer bottom. So try and maybe look for something like that, develop over time. So good, interesting trade location. Not enough interesting. We got nice little momentum bottoms here. Not enough for me to pound the table. Definitely a little old lady worth taking a real good look at, but no momentum trades here yet. Okay, I'm done on that one.
All right.
Next.
Okay, let's do a little spin here.
I know people were asking about that waves.
Yeah, waves on the chart here. We got NAV, Navcoin.
Didn't we try and look at this before? Oh, well, no, there's a bit of history.
It seems familiar.
Yeah. Well, you know, the sad part about it, and this is the toughest part of being a technician, is, you know, you want people to, or, you know, people want me to say, oh, fuck, this thing's a screaming buy. You got to go buy it right now. Problem is, you know, lower highs and lower lows defines a bear. Put in a low, and this is kind of like this NLG, right? There's 200 period moving average. Oh, this is the bottom. This is the bottom. Okay, we're going to. Oh, fuck me. You know, if we have these V bottoms, they are notoriously unsustainable, and they need to be tested over time. Notice we put in this very well-defined M right up here, and also a really well-defined M right up here. So the fact that we just broke to a new low here just the other day, not encouraging. Don't see any anecdotal evidence volume-wise to suggest that the buyers are ramping up. Momentum, yeah, wishy-washy. I suppose location, we're probably starting to get back down into attractive areas for nibbles. Well, no, we're not even at the line in the sand yet. So it looks like this tail might have come down into these lows here. So at the very least, we got to let some sort of W come in here and show us that we're turning up. But to all intents and purposes, I don't see any reason why this thing should bottom right away. And if anything, you know, it's probably going to be something like this. It's going to drive you absolutely crazy, but you got to have the patience and discipline to basically ride out this correction. So, you know, it almost looks to me like if we went like this, this looks very similar to sort of like this.
So we're waiting for another saucer.
Yeah, there's nothing really to get too excited about here. And it sucks, you know, because the first thing I said when I looked at this is, you know, people ask you to look at something. Okay, oh, you know, it's a buy, and then you look at it and you go, there's just nothing for me to work with here. I suppose fundamentally, has it got a half decent story? It's got a total of 60 million out. It's nothing great, nothing ungreat. Navajo coin. Is this related to that? Remember we had that crazy chick? What the hell was her name?
Yeah, she
She
was
was
talking
like,
about this, the Bitcoin Babe. Yeah, like on episode like 5 or something like
yeah.
that. Yeah, she was mentioning this.
Well, no, it wasn't this
Yeah.
one. She was into that. It was
I
like
could have sworn it was Navajo coin.
no, it was MZC Maza
Oh
coin.
yeah. Monza coin. You're right. Yeah.
And actually, I was really proud of myself because I sat in this piece of shit and I waited for the rally and I booked a really nice profit and I let her know that I made money on her call. But I never heard back from her. She's like totally stone cold us. I don't know why, but anyway. I know that this was a Native American play. Is that NAV in sort of the same neck of the woods? I don't know.
I was told it's to do with it's got some anonymous properties, so it's kind of in the whole scape of like what's going on right now with Zero or Zcoin or Zcash and Monero and all these other ones. I think there's a big push for anonymous coins again. So they're doing something different and unique. Andrew Wagner wrote an article for them on News BTC and told me I should buy some back before it pumped, and I didn't listen to him either. So
Seemed like a history of that, Alex.
yeah, people bring me so many coins now. I'm just so jaded. Like, because I think he brought it to me when it did that first leg again. And I was like, okay, it's probably done.
This
I don't.
is.
Yeah, like it was probably right after that. What's the date on that one?
It's July, August.
Yeah, it's probably right about right. I think.
Yeah, and actually this year, just as a side commentary, I found this year's rally in the altcoin market was really pushed back, I think, because of the halvening event.
Yep.
Seasonally, I would have thought this should have happened July, August. But I noticed a lot of these markets, they had their rally in September.
Well, right now, like I'm thinking part of the rise of Bitcoin, obviously not a sole indicator of what's pushing it up, but if this industry becomes kind of like the next .com bubble, a lot of the ways you're going to be able to purchase these is with Bitcoin. So you're going to need a lot of Bitcoin in order to fill your order books out, and that's kind of by what happened, I think, last year with Ethereum and Factom. They both went up significantly after we had the first leg in Bitcoin where we broke 300. So I'm thinking that a lot of the buy up too is for investors in the industry. You obviously have people who are fleeing capital, and but you have the next .com era that needs to be funded.
Yeah, I don't understand. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, you say look at Factom. If this could be a company that's going to be servicing several government agencies or services for a lot of countries in the world, that it's like the next Google or the next Microsoft possibly in terms of their software. So obviously you want to participate, say, in like the Bank of the Future. But if you want to, I want to buy their token. After I saw what happened to Ethereum, man, I want to buy a lot of factoids. Well, the only way you're going to buy factoids is with Bitcoin. Like there isn't really any good fiat pairings anywhere that are very filled out. So you need to own a lot of Bitcoin if you want to, say, work that market, like have those order books. So that's where I think some of the buy pressure is coming from. Is you have a lot of investors that are hungry to get in the space, and in order to invest in these currencies and these technologies, they need Bitcoin. It's kind of the on-ramp coin.
Interesting.
Makes sense, yeah. I mean, Bitcoin's the on-ramp to all of this for.
So in a weird sort of way, even though Bitcoin is not diluted, it has a very fixed base. Every time we get another one of these altcoins, it's sort of like further diluting the crypto space, eh?
Yeah, I don't know if it's diluting, but if you think about it, like let's say somebody wants to get into Factom, they have to first buy Bitcoin. And that's going to then inflate the price of Bitcoin. If it's enough, theoretically buying would increase that price, and then therefore the price of Factum would already be going up before they even have a chance to buy it, potentially.
Yeah, that sort of forward discounting mechanism. What was I just thinking a moment ago? You had made reference to, was it XMR?
Yeah, Monero.
This is, and I'm glad that you mentioned this, because this is about one of the only coins on sort of my watch list that's actually moving up right now with Bitcoin. So it's actually having a bit of a down day here now, but it was enjoying a nice little rally here the past couple of days, and I found this a little bit odd.
They had a good news indicator. They finally released a working wallet that you didn't have to use like command line for. You actually had things you could click on.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Well, I was asking
Yeah.
around my room, and they were saying something about a beta or something like that. So. Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was just interesting that you had mentioned that, because I was thinking about that, how this was one of the very few altcoins that's actually moving up right now.
Well,
relative
and
to Bitcoin.
one that might look a little better, and speaking also with on ramps, XRP Ripple, like
Ripple's getting ripped.
Hey,
Sorry.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people don't view Ripple as a true cryptocurrency because it's a very centralized supply. It's highly regulated. It's kind of just like it's a network that calls itself a blockchain. But it has promised to be one of the major on-ramps, I think, for fiat to come in not by leveraging Bitcoin markets at all, but by bringing on institutional banks to allow like fiat transfers to be just as easy. So maybe this will be like the future for fiat pairings and altcoins is having that money go to exchanges a lot more fluidly through Ripple. Right now, if I wanted to buy Bitcoin, I got to use a corporation like Interact, or I have to do a wire transfer over Swift. So to have like a more crypto-esque option, which would be lower fees, because most of those will cost around $40 for a lot of their services.
Quadriga, you can set up your bank account through Quadriga.
Yeah, but there's still some fees attached to that, right? I think the best option for them, if you live in Vancouver, is to just do drop off, like bring them cash and they'll credit your account.
Yeah. I guess Ripple, they reorganized themselves last year. You remember all that mess? And the bank sort of said they wanted to get out of Ripple. How is that? I don't know. Have you read anything? How is that new management team doing?
Not quite sure. And when I looked at this chart the other day, I saw the one green candle. I was a little more hopeful, but it doesn't look so great now.
Yeah, things are looking pretty tough for this guy down in here.
Yeah.
I guess I was encouraged to see that Ethereum is trying desperately. Look at this interesting doji right on this key low here. It's trying desperately, and I thought we had an inside bar working the other day here. If anything, guys, people watching this, if you want to sort of take a barometer reading of the altcoin market relative to Bitcoin, I think you just watch Ethereum here. As soon as it shows signs that it's officially bottomed, then I think the altcoin market's will be back. That's just my 2 cents. So.
Well, and that could be fuel for Bitcoin's fire too. Like every Ether that's sold at a premium, like ICO investors, that's more money going back into Bitcoin, like a significant amount. Because like if I put in, say, 1 Bitcoin during their ICO in 2014, I can pull out like 10 Bitcoins now. Like,
is it still 10x?
Let's see. It was from ICO at its peak. It was 30x. So it's probably around 10x now.
Wow.
So this is where we were talking. Remember earlier, I remember I had viewers saying, "Oh, Brian, should I buy Ethereum here? It's breaking out." This is it's very similar to the way the Bitcoin chart looks right now. But ultimately, this is our testament to why it's important that we really time our purchases off the bottoms. I wouldn't be surprised if Ethereum had to come back down. Here is our original purchase level, and here's where the market is right now. Because I thought we got in right near that ICO level. I thought the market bottomed right around there, 0.002.
It never touched ICO levels. It was about 3 times the price of ICO at its lowest.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
0.002 here is still 3 times the ICO level? I guess there's 0.001. Okay, so at 0.007, we're still miles and miles and miles away from the ICO level, eh? Correct?
Sounds like it.
Yeah, now I remember what the Bitstamp news was. Someone in the chat here, James.
Yeah, Bitstamp is going to be listing Ripple.
Yeah, so that pairing quite possibly could have some new on-ramps for fiat. So it might even be better news.
So that's what that I saw that tweet. Somebody had said I saw Ripple and I saw Stamp in the same tweet. That's what they were referring to. Stamp's going to list them.
Yeah, that's the plan. Is they're going to have a Ripple pairing with Bitcoin, I think.
So wait, what's your sort of feel? Like, actually, have you talked to that Simon guy recently, Alex? What's your sort of feeling about how that Bank to the Future platform and their whole equity financing's going? Because didn't they just do a deal with Stamp?
Yeah, I think they were in the process of it when they did the interview. I spoke with him recently. He wanted me to have another project on to do some publicity for them. So I was looking into it and wasn't too enthused with what he brought to me. But
I told the $2 million a day guy yesterday, I said, go talk to this guy. And if he takes your business, he better fucking give you champagne and hookers every time he sees you, because he's going to make so much money off of you. So Simon, if you're watching this show out there, you better treat that 2 million Bitcoin a day guy with gold with gold with kid gloves, right? All right, so sorry, getting off topic there. What the hell's Ripple symbol again?
XRP.
Oh, XRP. So it's not on there yet. So what this means, if they do list on, so they're on Polo, they're on Kraken, they're on Juby, they're on Bitrex, they get listed on Stamp. So fucking what? Like,
Stamp
what
has
is that? What does that mean? How does that change the market?
It just means there's a lot of people that have money sitting on Stamp, basically, and it's another pair for them to get into and out of. I think, at least.
And I know a lot of legacy.
A lot of volume there.
A lot of legacy Bitcoin guys. Stamp, like I know they don't have the greatest volume, but they paint the truest chart, in my opinion, because I think they have the oldest and
I also heard too that they're going to introduce margin trading, right?
Yep,
that's quite possible. Yeah.
So that's
according to JC, he pasted a quote. It says, "As promised, we can confirm that XRP will be launched as a trading pair in the second week of January, and that margin trading will be introduced in Q2 2017."
Right. So I've always believed that Stamp was the truest of charts because it didn't have the margin trading. But that's cool. Or maybe it was because of their strict compliance. And I'd be curious because Will, you're in the States. If you're talking to somebody and they want to trade on margin on leverage Bitcoin, where do you tell them to go?
I usually say BitMEX, but that's all. I'm friends with Sam from BitMEX, so that's part of it. But
okay, but that's and I'm hearing more and more people talking.
Generally speaking, I mean, Kraken is apparently up there now in volume and all that stuff, so that would be my second choice.
It's interesting because I've traded the Altcoin forward contracts for a long time, and I can literally feel the air coming out of that market. So it's really interesting to watch it. I see more, and like a lot of people have moved over to this BitMEX platform. So I'm always, ear to the ground. I want to sort of keep a barometer reading as to how these exchanges are doing one versus the other and stuff. So do you guys get the feeling that Stamp is on the rise? Is that sort of the way you would say it?
I don't know. It's kind of like that old faithful, right? Like lots of people, I guess, trust Stamp, even though they've had their own little downtime events. But I think like lot of big whales, like early, we're talking 2011 Bitcoin whales, work their orders there, because the most infamous one was the bear whale in 2014, I think it was, where a guy just dropped a 30,000 Bitcoin order at $300, and like the market just chopped away at it for hours.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, I remember.
So like that's kind of like the type of people I'm talking about. You know, like they're not your institutional traders, but they're your old school
early miners, people that bought in at $4, and then they decide have half of it sitting in an exchange for the past 3 years, and then decide to just get rid of it or whatever.
So for them, setting up an account on another exchange to buy an altcoin is like an unnecessary step. So
right.
So what do you guys think about Coinbase? Because I actually noticed the other day the rally stopped. Actually, Julian saw this. The rally in Bitcoin stopped on a dime when a massive block was traded on Coinbase. And
as far as GDAX, you mean specifically?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's their exchange platform. I follow Coinbase pretty religiously. I usually look at Stamp and Coinbase just when I'm checking spot price. But I did notice too on this current rally that we're in, it hit 988 today on Coinbase, but everywhere else it was like 980 was the top. That's probably changed during the show by now, but
yeah,
thought it was interesting.
I like to follow my 4 matrix here. So these are the well, actually I got 6 of them on here now. So Stampy, I like to follow Phoenix because of, honestly, I the way that Phoenix hack was resolved and then the price action around that, I kind of feel like Phoenix is kind of leading the market right now. Here's your Coinbase here up here. And it's interesting how the forwards just aren't pushing to new highs here on the hourly charts, but the Coinbase chart is. So yeah, good observation, Will. And then I constantly have people talking to me about this. I mean, me personally, I'm a fan of following the US dollars denominated coin values. But what are you guys' thoughts on the Bitcoin China and following the Chinese exchanges for leadership?
Well, I don't have much anymore. I haven't been really following.
What Brian Kelly was saying on CNBC the other day was that he overlaid a chart on the Chinese yuan, the devaluation, and there's striking similarities to large movements in that market. And the Bitcoin uptick. So again, it's fleeing capital. So that could be, some major news event coming out of China where they have like corrective capital controls of some sort. Could be a big event for Bitcoin because I think it's a lot of Chinese money coming in still. The premium, like Huobi, is already over $1,000 American in exchange rate.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a more true exchange rate for the Chinese yuan.
All right, and so now actually we're making a thesis for a talk here because I believe that one of the first priorities Mr. Trump is going to do when he gets into office is label the Chinese as a currency manipulator. And I believe that will come to a head in the end of January, beginning of February. So I can understand that the Chinese, while Obama is still technically in charge, are going to take advantage of that window as much as possible to devalue their currency as much as they can. And then when it comes head to head and they have to actually sit down and negotiate with Mr. Trump, well, they've already the devaluation's already happened. So that's old news now. Does that make sense, guys?
Mm-hmm.
So if anything, maybe now, and I was a little surprised. I didn't realize the inauguration was so late. It's not till January 20th.
No.
So this insanity could go on for a couple more weeks here. So okay, actually that was good.
I'm okay with that.
I'm glad we had that. We went that direction with the conversation, and I think the viewers out there, I think you now have a catalyst to start thinking about Bitcoin and Chinese yuan moving into the 20th of January. So still quite a long ways away. Holy crap.
Yep. Yep. Not
Okay,
even New Year's
so
yet.
sorry I took us off on a bit of a tangent there, guys. Didn't mean to do that.
Oh, it's all right.
No, that's
Figured
good.
I'd kind of.
Do
I
we
think
want to listen
we're pretty close to the time here, so we can probably wrap her up and.
Okay, you know, I've sure have talked a lot, so I'll shut the hell up. You guys now.
Yeah, no. Well, I guess I'm just gonna wrap it up if you turn it over to me. So, but yeah. So thanks everybody for watching. We'll be back 2 weeks from tonight if all goes well, guys, and everything. And don't forget to check out the rationalinvestor.co. If you like kind of what Brian has been going through tonight, he runs a great trading school. It's a lot more than just, Bitcoin. He goes through kind of the fundamentals of trading as well as technical analysis and just money management and all the things that you need to know. So if you've been kind of in the dark, I couldn't recommend it more. It's just a great class. And, Brian, whenever somebody comes to me, being that, I'm involved with Coinigy, we get a lot of people asking, hey, is there any kind of like a good school or anything? I always recommend Brian's class. He does one-on-one stuff with people that you're not going to find anywhere else. So kudos to Brian. Check that out at therationalinvestor.co.
Thanks, Liz.
And Alex Sterk runs the guy in the lower left for me. He might be on the right for you. I don't know, but runs Block Talk, just youtube.com/Block Talk, and just does a great job, interviewing coin developers and platforms and just anybody involved in the crypto scene. And sometimes he gets yelled at, and sometimes it's hilarious. And but Alex, does just an awesome job. So definitely check out Block Talk. And myself, Coinigy.com, pro tools for crypto traders. Mentioned it at the beginning. Don't forget to check out our roadmap. It's on the same YouTube channel, youtube.com/Coinigy. And yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. You will then be updated whenever future videos are posted. And on that note, I think we're done. We're good. We're good. Good,
Yeah,
guys.
good.
Sounds awesome.
All right.
Put a
Cool.
fork in her.
Stick a fork in her. She's done.
All
All
right.
right. Take
Bye,
care,
everybody.
everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
All right.